Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tesla Life number 143, I believe. Yeah, 143. Here we are, the 8th of April. Guys, just out of question here, does it show that we're recording the show in your top corner?
Yes.
Is the counter moving?
It never moves.
Okay. All right. I just didn't notice that till now. My counter isn't moving as well, but all is fine. Very good. Very good. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. We've got a ton of news tonight, as per usual, even with the little bit of slowdown that Tesla is experiencing. But first, let's introduce our other members of the panel tonight. Mr. Casey Green joins us from the DC area. How are you today, sir?
Doing pretty well. I finally got that multi-software review video completed and online, so
that was a big piece of work. You had to get that out because the updates just kept stacking in behind you.
Yeah, so there's another one out now that I haven't received yet on my car.
And we'll probably talk a little bit about that, what could be possibly in that update tonight.
So Tesla engineers have been very productive working from home.
Exactly. And that, of course, is Mr. Patrick Connor joining us from the West Coast. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. Hello, Tesla Life viewers, and welcome. We are helping bring in the fossil-free fuel future.
Wow.
Can't say it. Yes. Bringing you a future that's fossil fuel free. There you go.
Man, we got to get that written on a business card or something.
She sells seashells by the seashore.
Bingo. Yes. Absolutely. Well, to our first story of the week, and this is a massive story that's been happening all week long. Little bits and video updates have been happening day by day for the past basically 6 or 7 days. And Casey's going to tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, absolutely. So Sandy Munro of this channel he's created called Munro Live of Munro and Associates, they tear down and reverse engineer vehicles, and they make suggestions to manufacturers how to improve their process, as well as sell the reports to competitors so that they don't have to buy the cars and tear them down themselves. And they did quite a few videos this week.
Yeah.
We've learned about the suspension and braking. We've learned about the front tub and the rear tub seating. He made so far, the only thing I've disagreed with from his analysis is he thinks that the seats are going to be rear-facing, and unless Tesla changed it from the prototypes, that's the only thing I disagree with. I see how it could work his way, and how that makes more sense than what Tesla's doing. I just don't see that Tesla is doing rear-facing seats. Today's video, they got into the HVAC system because the Model Y has a heat pump versus every other Tesla with the PTC heater and a separate air compressor for the air conditioning, and it was a blast. And Elon even responded on Twitter to Sandy's reviews, and somebody at Tesla, probably also Elon, emailed Sandy to say that the noise mitigation enclosure for the Model 3's AC is actually going to be retrofitted back to the Model Y, because even though it's on a floating mount that allows it to make less noise, it still is able to radiate more noise because it's not covered up. So yeah, this should make it even quieter than the Model 3.
And that was something that Sandy Munro asked for, and
yes.
Tesla's going to do it. Yeah.
So what did you guys think?
Oh, there was a ton of information that came out. And like you said, some of it we didn't know if it was quite right. It may have been personal opinion on Sandy's part. I know the one controversy that came out pretty early in the videos was about fitting non-Tesla rims to the car because of the external hex bolt that's on the, I guess, just on the, what is that, the wheel assembly.
Yeah, that caused quite a stir in the community.
Right. Many people were saying that it's not an adjustment for the brakes.
Right.
It is just a bolt that holds things in place for the building. and then could be removed after because it's not required anymore. And others were saying, no, that is required. So I don't know myself. I wanted to talk to Patrick and you to see if what you guys knew about that.
So Sandy seemed to think it was the brake retention device, and everybody's saying that it's not. So I'm curious if when he removes the brakes, if he will then update his statement or kind of glaze over it. From what I've seen, he's probably going to go back and address it and say, hey, I thought it was this, but it's not. Hopefully, but the community was not nice about it.
No, they jumped all down his throat on that one.
Yeah, because right now he's not into his analysis phase. Everything is, I suppose this is what it looks like, because they've only got half the car, not even half the car, but they've only got half the parts removed.
Exactly, and then the other thing that he showed early was the octovalve. Which, of course, is the replacement for the super bottle in the Model 3. The octovalve exists in the Model Y. Yeah. And again, there's no analysis on this new bottle yet, but he found the Easter egg of the octopus embroidery on the side. Not embroidery, but a stamp of the octopus, just like there was a super bottle stamp as well. So that Easter egg was uncovered by Sandy as he's been doing his digging. What did you think, Patrick?
I think it's funny how he's torn down dozens of cars in the past, but it's not until he starts doing Tesla vehicles that it's worth doing daily video releases or setting up a Munro Live website. Yeah, he's definitely found that there's a passionate community here that really cares about what he gets and that he gets things right, and that they will give him copious feedback if there's something that they disagree about. But it also means that he has an audience for this, and I'm sure his YouTube channel is doing pretty well. So that it's interesting that we've had this discussion that all cars have some fans out there, but Tesla's a whole nother level.
That is for sure. We've got super fans here that know a lot about the car. We've got people that have intermediate knowledge, and we have people that have really no knowledge, and they're just fanboys as well. So this community is rather large, and it is divided into a number of different sections. But man, they are vocal. There's no doubt about that. And they're vocal on social media, and they will come after you like there's no tomorrow if they believe something you've said or directed is incorrect. Sandy beware.
Yes.
It is quite. But what I enjoy is just as Casey had mentioned, when he started to get into the details of the Model 3, he's already torn apart, and then he talked about the condenser and how it had an external cover with foam. In order to reduce the noise that the condenser would make inside the Model 3, then he saw it on that Model Y. It was missing it. It was a new part, so they couldn't use the same cover anymore because, of course, this is the condenser and the heat pump together, and it's a bigger unit. And as Casey said, it's kind of a floating unit. It allows it to vibrate, not hit anything. But he was going, you know what? It would make a lot of sense to have this one covered as well. And, of course, Elon responding that, yes, the covering is coming. So interesting to see the back and forth. And Elon tweeted that he was happy to see Sandy taking these vehicles apart and providing them with constructive criticism. He talked a little bit about clips under the frunk of the Model Y. What could be done. In fact, he even had examples of what would work better than what Tesla's currently using. And the part was actually cheaper than what Tesla was currently using. So Sandy's providing a ton of information and had apparently provided about 250 pieces of information on the Model 3 when it first came out as well. So he's doing it to video as well as putting these points down. And of course, we'll get a complete breakdown as he starts to analyze all the parts that he's taken out of the car and gets a chance to go over each of them and start checking for costs and things of that nature. So another interesting point I found was the Brembo brakes, I believe it was. Brembo. And he, again, with the Model Y, they're using the same brake manufacturer, but I didn't know that Tesla actually milled the Brembo off the side and replaced it with the Tesla. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting to hear from him, because he knows the Brembo parts. He's seen them on other cars. He knows how they're labeled and saw that these were milled, and the new Tesla logo was stamped over top of what was milled. So kind of cool to know. Kind of inside baseball, but still very interesting as we're watching from the outside here.
Yeah, and then you can see in some of the videos, he apparently has never been able to say the name of the company right. So they made a new no, I can't say it. Munro logo. That's the way he says it, which is he says the last syllable a little backwards from the way it's written, and so they gave him a friendly ribbing and put it to his toolbox.
That is funny. So, Mark, I think you have a Twitter poll we can put out there. When the third row comes out for the Model Y, will it be forward-facing or rear-facing?
Excellent idea, Patrick. I think we'll put that out this week. Excellent idea.
Do we think that Tesla has already paid for this report, or is this a free sample? Or
I think it's free. I really do. I think basically how he's saying, he actually mentioned in the video that Tesla is not one of his clients.
Oh.
He does not have them as a client. He is providing the information pro bono to them, suggestions like he had done for the Model 3.
He's probably made a lot of money off of them, because last year he was making the circuit.
He certainly got notoriety, and it brought him to the forefront really quickly.
Yeah.
Especially when he kind of slagged Tesla on build quality, and then started to examine inside the parts he's taken apart and started to say, holy moly, nobody's doing this type of quality inside a car. No one has these type of electronics. Nobody puts these type of stop gaps in place.
So he did with the wiring on the Model Y this time.
He was shocked with the amount of things that Tesla has brought to the table that no other auto manufacturer has done to this point. So
yeah, I like the fact that he did. Yeah, criticism is great as long as it's constructive and not just I hate this, kind of comments. And I really like the fact that he appreciates the innovation that Tesla's bringing, because you can see someone like him who's been in the auto industry for a long time and seen how they've done it for decades, just said, well, they're doing it different, therefore it's wrong, right? Exactly. And no, he's not taking that angle, which is great.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, the other large story of this week certainly was the announcement of Q1 information from Tesla as to the number of builds that happen and the number of sales. And with the close down of Fremont within the last week or a week and a half of the quarter, a lot of us were really wondering how the numbers were going to fare, because, of course, Tesla loves to pack in those sales into the last 2 weeks of every quarter as they push out to the North American market. And
whole world.
The world stuff's typically done at that point because they've shipped it, right? It's on a boat.
Yeah.
It has to be done at the beginning of the quarter. All the stuff in the last 2 weeks is basically North American stuff that they can put on a truck and get to somewhere in 3-4 days.
And then everybody opens their presents at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's not a great system to have everything so weighted to the end of a quarter. But
weird.
That's what it is.
And that's what we were concerned about when this when the medical emergency that has happened has kind of thrown a wrench into everyone's plans. But we were pleasantly surprised. Tesla actually outperformed any of their Q1s with this Q1 in 2020.
New record.
A new record for Q1. They were able to produce, what was it, 88,000 400 vehicles were delivered in the quarter, and they were able to produce 102,000 plus vehicles in that same quarter. So delivery 88,000, rough numbers, production of 102,000 vehicles in that quarter. And they did give a breakdown a little bit indicating that of the vehicles actually delivered for sales, 15,390 were Model S and X combined, and then the remainder of 87,282 Model 3 and Ys. And I'm sorry, that wasn't the sales, that was the builds, the production. Yeah. So interesting that S and X again have always been paired. We've never seen the breakdown of that, and now all of a sudden they've paired the 3 and the Y as well. So they're keeping to a pattern that they have, and quarter one, excellent for what it was. I can imagine if we didn't have the medical problem that we had, the health issue, that this would have been a spectacular quarter if they had that extra week and a half to continue as normal, especially with the Model Y rollout that was happening. But at this point, we don't know what's going to happen in quarter two. We have a story later on talking about when Fremont is possibly going to reopen, but what their goal or their aim is. But right now, quarter two looks like it's all up in the air. We really don't know what's going to happen because, of course, Fremont has been shut down since Q2 has started.
Right, and that's not just Tesla, it's the other auto manufacturers. In fact, big portions of the entire economy. So Q2 is going to be a difficult time if you're an investor all around.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of discounts to be had.
Well, yeah, the stock market is a roller coaster ride. It's crazy at this point, although there are people saying that Tesla's got a better way to fare this rough market than others because of the position they're in.
Yeah, they made a couple of recent strong moves.
Exactly. And of course, getting that extra $2 billion in investment cash just before this thing hit certainly looks like the best option they could have ever done.
Yeah, that was a great move.
People were kind of slagging them at one point, saying, "Well, you said you're not getting capital, and now you're raising capital." Well, they're damn happy they raised it now. Let me tell you. Talk about coming in under the wire with that. So that certainly allows them to float a few quarters into the future and hopefully weather this storm better than most.
Looking at these numbers, it's interesting to see how many fewer Model Ys and Model 3s released versus the Model S and Model X.
Well,
5% versus 16%.
I didn't think they were offering a lot of leases. It's only in certain regions. If they can't meet demand, they would always rather sell a vehicle.
Oh, their lease terms are usually pretty horrible.
And so leasing is not something that they can recognize all the revenue immediately, so they'd rather sell the vehicle. So that makes sense that most of the quarter they weren't offering leases at all. I didn't even know they were offering any yet, so I'm surprised that it's as high as it is.
They have been for a while on 3.
On the 3 and the S and X, yeah.
I don't know if they've done it for the Y
S
yet.
and X certainly, okay, but not the Y yet. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll keep our eye as quarter two is like, here we are coming to the midpoint of April. We'll have to see as things move along as to when production starts up again, when the cars can start being moving. Because of course, we've heard about those early deliveries of the Model Y. We've seen people receiving both the performance and some of the all-wheel drive cars as well. Not a lot of them, but some. And in the last 6-7 days, it's really slowed down. So people are not getting them basically at all at this point that we're hearing about. A few spattered out earlier in the week, but as of Tuesday today, I haven't heard about any other people receiving them. So obviously they're going to run out at some point because the manufacturing has stopped.
It looks like now. This morning I heard an anecdote from a guy who's really loosened up his specs to get a Model Y. He said, "All right, I don't care what color, what trim, what interior, what wheels, sport or all-wheel drive. Just give me a Model Y." They're like, "There's nothing to give you, buddy."
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. At least that was one customer and one rep. So I mean, there could still be some in the pipeline. But
you see the number disparage from what was produced, 102,000, and what was delivered, 88,000.
Yeah.
So you've got that extra 14,000 that is in between.
Yeah.
They're going to go through those really quickly, and then that's it. They're gone. There's nothing left. Because Tesla's not holding a whole bunch of inventory like other car dealers.
Right.
They're not sitting on lots somewhere waiting to be sold by another arm of Tesla. This is it. Whatever they made is basically sold. That extra 14,000, once they're gone, they got to get a new one made. That's it. There's no more.
It looks like anything that did open up was just people whose situation changed with this crisis. Like they suddenly found themselves unable to maybe make the initial payment or
didn't want to pull the trigger at the point where they didn't feel comfortable anymore.
Exactly. There were some people who took the non-refundable and said, "All right, I'd rather take this cut than risk not being able to make my bills."
Yeah.
And so those cars were recycled. But it sounds like most of the people who were going to do that have already done it, based on, or at least for Model Y, based on this anecdote.
Yeah, plenty of people do the Tesla stretch to be able to afford a Tesla, and in uncertain times like this, you might not want to stretch so much. So it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So next, Casey's got our next story, and go ahead.
So coming up in my next update video, when I get the update, Tesla has included the dash cam viewer that we'd all been asking for on the screen in the car in the update. So you'll be able to review your footage from your screen as long as your flash drive is plugged in. When you're in park, you just hit the dash cam snapshot button, and it'll ask you if you want to do the snapshot or review your footage. And you'll say that you want to review the footage, and it'll play back. Well, first it'll give you a menu, and then you can pick what time you want, and then it'll play back all the cameras together. One will be big, and then the others will be kind of squares around the corners. And you can pick what you want to be in the big screen. And then you can decide right there if you want to unplug the drive and download any of it from anywhere, which is really cool. There were some other changes as well. They obviously continued to refine the full self-driving underpinnings, and some people have said that their autopilot is stronger. I'll let you know when I get my hands on it.
Well, yeah, they've been doing a pretty big rewrite of the basics of autopilot, so I don't know when those are going to start rolling out, but
they are already rolling out. Mine, version 2020.8.1, my car became very special, and for 2020.12 and 2020.12.1, they made it much smoother, and the routing was better.
Nice.
But on 2020.12.1, as you'll notice in my video, they changed the stop sign icons to be a little more high fidelity. So instead of just this random red octagon, they actually say stop on them, which is pretty cool.
They wrote the stop on it. Okay.
Yes.
Well, now
sorry, Patrick, go ahead.
I was going to say, we were talking about the TeslaCsm. And now that you can view them in the car, since they have YouTube in the car, the next thing they need is an export to YouTube button right there. If you're on Wi-Fi, boom, just send it to your channel.
a little slider so you can set so that people aren't looking at a minute of nothing and then 30 seconds of something important.
Right, yeah, export clips to the world.
Perfect.
So I'm excited about that. And
you can publicize that idiot that you filmed just in front of you 2 seconds ago. You can publicize him right away.
Yeah, you can always point your phone at the screen and upload that to YouTube. There you go.
Yep.
Well, another tweet from Elon. Surprise, surprise. Elon's always full of tweets. And someone asked him a question. Hey, is FSD still on track to increase in price? I'd like to thank K10 for that note, of course. That's very nice of him to ask if it's going up in price. And, of course, Elon responded back, yeah, probably July 1st. So those of you who do not have FSD and are considering it, the full self-driving suite probably will go up. And if history is any example, probably go up by about $1,000 is what it's happened in the past. So keep that in mind. If you are thinking about FSD, Elon has always said that as the features start to get added, the price will go up.
Yep.
I have to wonder, like, what is this? Is K10 reminding him? Oh yeah, don't forget.
Yeah, that's what
you forgot to assign homework.
Thanks, K10.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, getting that on the fast track, we really appreciate that. I'm sure everybody is really thinks you're helpful doing things like that.
Thanks, Teacher's Pet. No, she's cool
though. Well, not to leave the Model S and X out of the picture at all, the Raven S and X is getting a new launch mode called Cheetah launch. And the Cheetah launch, kind of interesting, that it's going to use the airbags in the car, the adjustable suspension, to push up or down the front back axles to the perfect position they believe for a better launch. And there's a few other things that are thrown in the mix as well. But this is the first time that Tesla is adjusting the stance of the car before the launch using the airbags that are in the car, the air suspension that's in the car. And we've already had who was it, Brooks from Drag Time. He's already taken it out and done a number of runs and has basically said the car's also producing about another 46 horsepower on top of it. So the stance is different, the horsepower is a little bit more, and of course it's resulting in a better 0 to 60, 0 to 100 times. So interesting that they're now adjusting that type of thing. I never thought that they would adjust the air suspension on a launch. What do you guys think about that?
That's pretty cool, because when I launched mine, I had the same experience that Brooks had, where once you put it in launch mode, the car just kind of tightens everything up. It's ready to go, and like it already starts applying pressure against the braking system. And he said now what it does is it lowers the front of the car all the way to the bump stops. So you go boom, and then immediately it starts applying torque. So you've got about, he said it also increased the time that you have to do your launch. So you've got about 10 seconds from when it's ready versus about 4 seconds on my car.
Okay, so you've got that little bit of difference in timing.
Which is great, because if the guy next to you is doing this weird stuff at the tree, or if you're doing street racing or something like that that you shouldn't be doing, it gives you more time to deal with the variability. And then once you see the green light up on the Christmas tree or the flagger let go, you just let the brake go and bam.
Nice.
6,000 pounds of vehicle just takes off like
that. Just another little thing that they've figured out, and they're constantly optimizing. It's going to be interesting to see how this fares against things like the e-tron and the Taycan and others when they're out there on the track.
Yep, and this builds on the existing launch mode that was in the pre-Raven and the Raven cars. So now, if you just keep holding it, the Raven car will dip. If you let go right away, then it will launch at whatever height it's dropped to.
And speaking of modifications, there was a tweet from Elon as well, talking specifically about the Plaid and how its complexity has been growing. Yeah. And they're taking an initiative to lose some of the complexity so that when it releases to the public, obviously it's probably easier for manufacturing and such. But they feel that the complexity has been ramping up, and they want to limit that. So that tweet was sent earlier in the week as well. So just thought I'd mention that at this point.
Yeah, now at this point, I'm more interested in the Roadster and Cybertruck. I was worried about what they would do with the Plaid to kind of keep my finger away from that buy button, but if it's still because right now the Raven and the pre-Raven are really close, and so if the pre-Raven and the Maximum Plaid aren't too much different other than just raw power output, I'll wait. But I will want to test drive if anybody.
Yeah,
just give me a call.
definitely. We all would love to test drive it for sure. Also, this week, speaking on the medical side of things, Tesla released a video that showed their basically a test bench where they were putting together medical components along with Model 3 components. And the prime one here in this picture, of course, is the Model 3 15-inch display is being used in this particular demonstration. So they've taken a number of components that they know work well, the CPU, the boards, things of that nature to control a ventilator machine, and added medical components and, of course, hookups for air to come in either from oxygen or regular air or a mixture. And they've actually had a working prototype in place, and they're now showing it to different groups to get approval to move further with it. Apparently today, someone with a nurse from an ICU unit was reviewing the video, went through it piece by piece, and she was impressed with the level of sophistication that this product is going to have, the components and how they work together. And she was quite happy with the result that Tesla had. Now, obviously, she's not the one that they're trying to get approval from. Right. It's got to go to the government and medical board body for them to review before they start pushing them out. But good to see they're on the path to take some existing technology, add their stuff to it in order to produce it faster. And get some of these badly needed ventilators out to hospitals across the U.S.
Yeah, the only critique that the nurse I saw, he said, was he suggested a way to warm and humidify the air on the way into the lungs because it would help reduce the stress. And he was very impressed that it had the pressure sensing to make sure that they didn't overinflate the people's lungs. And because it's just impressive how many parts from the Model 3 and Model X they used. Model S, Model X with the air suspension, and the Model 3, just like all of it. They had the computer screen. They had the main computer. In fact, on the video, you can see it's still got for the settings. It's still got the little Model 3 icon, and in the upper right, you can see it's complaining that the doors are open.
Exactly. And of course, they were saying that they use so much components that they're from cars is because they know how they operate, they know how they perform, and they know what kind of taxation they're under currently. And they realize that with this ventilator system, they need to have parts that work reliably and work the way they believe they will work going forward over long periods of time.
Right, and the ventilator supply chain is probably stressed right now anyway. So if they can start, if they can use parts that they already have from a different supply chain and help get more ventilators out without slowing down the rest of that industry, that's great.
Yeah, because that was one of their top requirements when they went on this project was to use as few parts that are common to any other situation as possible. So I'm hoping that when this is all said and done, that the only things they use that are common are like the hoses that come out of the machine. The other thing that the nurse thought was awesome was that they don't not only had the filter going into the patient to make sure that they didn't get any viruses and such in forced into them. It also had a filter on the out port to make sure that
the external breathing is also filtered.
Yeah, so that the medical staff is not put in additional danger from this patient, other than obviously when they intubate them and deal with it.
Yeah,
that's phenomenal. I'm excited to see where this leads, and I really hope that Tesla Medical is something that keeps going forward. Obviously, they can't keep giving away stuff for free, but hopefully, once they have satisfied the current crisis, and if they keep it continued, that they can have stuff done at lower prices than what we've seen. Because here in the States, medicine is quite an interesting business. Hopefully, we can get it back to being focused on people rather than dollars.
Yep, can't go wrong there. Says the guy from Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we've got an interesting photo. We knew this photo was coming at some point, and here it is. So this, of course, is sexier. So we've got the S3, the X, the Y, and of course the R being the Roadster. And that Roadster looks like a toy.
It does.
It looks like the gift that the Tesla was giving out to the kids in the early days of the referral program. It's just shocking how small the Roadster is. I've said that before. I've seen a couple Roadsters in person, and when they only come up to your waist, it's remarkable how low to the ground they are. But very cool photo shared. This was a meetup that was happening, and this snapshot was taken, and actually it was shared on the Twitter feed for
family.
Yeah. So we're glad to see it, and just did they actually have white Roadsters? You guys ever seen a white Roadster? Okay, all right.
This was not a real meetup. It was a socially distant meeting for his video. Because it just came out and you had to get it out in a timely fashion.
Yeah,
it always surprises me and shocks me. I know this ever since I've seen my first one, but every time I come across the Roadster, it is just it's incredible how diminutive it is, and even more so when you think about this is bigger than the car it's based on by a considerable amount. It's like, how tiny was that original car?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, this is an interesting story that happened this week. Apparently, the HAL9000 computer has been watching SentryMode for a little while. And it has complained about copyright infringement as to the image that's shown on SentryMode, which, of course, is the HAL9000 from a Space Odyssey movie. That familiar-looking picture.
Right. Did it say, "I'm sorry, Elon, you can't use that"?
I'm sorry, Elon, pay up. Big bucks. He said, go get bent.
It said, you saw what happened to Dave. Don't let it happen to you, Elon. So Elon quickly sent a tweet out that they're going to start using a new SentryMode icon, which belongs to a video game franchise, I believe. I am not familiar with it, but it's called Portal Turret.
It's off of the turret from the video game Portal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very similar. It's got and we don't know what exactly image he's going to use. We know that in the video game, this turret is basically a 3-legged small robot that has a red eye in the center, and of course it has the ability to shoot things. The armaments drop on the side, and it has the ability to shoot in different directions. But we're wondering, are they going to actually use the picture of the robot, or are they going to use the picture of the eye, the red eye of the robot, similar to what is currently shown with the Space Odyssey robot now?
So
not sure what it's going to be.
What I'm seeing in the ether is the eye is about the same size as the HAL9000 eye. Completely replaces that red and orange with this orange and red eye from Portal, and then the device in the game is actually like 2 halves put together, and so there's like a visible seam down the middle. Yep. And your screen is now, depending on if it's vertical or horizontal, so Model 3, Model Y versus Model X, Model S. It's got a seam down the middle, very, very visible, and I haven't seen.
I could probably help by just sharing this photo.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so it looks like that device head on, and it takes up the whole screen. So what I'm not sure of is if it moves or pulses about like the. Actually, I am sure of that because Green the Only shared the animation on his Twitter feed. It does pulse about. I'm just not sure if it like moves left and right like some of the earlier editions of HAL9000 did. Okay. And then your small icon in the top where you can turn on and off SentryMode also is replaced with a little orange guy with all the serrations, all the segmentation, like the iris from the front of this robot as well. But that one is not split. It's just the circle.
So that was kind of an interesting development after us having the HAL9000 for some time now. But hey, I guess if you don't pay the copyright, you don't get to keep it. So we'll have to see if anything else develops from that. Are they going to be? Have they been sent just a cease and desist, or is there going to be legal action? We don't know.
They probably got sent a hey, we really appreciate you bringing back our stuff, but now you got to pay up. Here's our licensing terms. And Tesla said, shoot, we just did this in homage.
Yeah, you should be happy that you've been brought up to speed in 2020.
We'll pay you an exposure. So I mean, they were
kind of like Sandy Munro being brought out of that. Another thing about SentryMode, apparently Elon thinks it's a good idea to have a stealth Sentry mode. Yeah. Someone complained about this on Twitter. Elon thought it was a good idea, and basically the person that had the problem with it is saying we're in a pretty densely urban environment. We've got people that are walking by the car all the time, going to other parts of the parking lot, going to other condominiums, passing the car on the sidewalk. Cars are driving up and down the road that were parked on the side road, and that, of course, setting off the Sentry mode at all times. And of course, you've got the flashing lights, the headlights. You've got the screen comes on, lights up the interior of the car, and they'd rather it just record stuff and not alert people that it's doing so. We even had a report from someone, must have been a month ago, that they parked their car outside of a restaurant with the car pointing towards the front glass window of the restaurant. And with the Sentry mode going on and off, the lights were flashing into the restaurant all night long till they got up and turned it off with their app. But this is one of the, I guess, solutions. If you have a stealth mode, it doesn't have to go through those different stages, but yet still records things if there does happen to be a real problem happening. Yeah. So
I agree with it. I've caught my car catching people's attention, like that little pulse of the lights as people go by, and it acknowledges that, hey, and instead of scaring them away, it tends to draw them in. They're like, did that? And they start looking in, and I don't necessarily mind that it says it's recording on the screen. That's kind of cool. So I'm hoping that you can set the lights separately from the rest of it. But if it all turns off, I'll be fine with that. As long as it still plays the song really loudly when somebody gets it to that high level of alert. And if it's just still recording all the time, I'm fine with that.
Okay. What did you think of that, Patrick? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's nice to have the option.
Yes,
and
I'm glad it's an option.
Use it, maybe you won't, but if there are places where you want to turn it off, now you can.
Yep. The only downside to this as a Tesla owner, coming across other Teslas, you don't know if they're on Sentry mode because, you walk by and it flashes, you say, hi. You wave
Yeah, I've done that too.
Show them that you've got the key fob too. Look at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Here's my fob.
Right?
Or here's my app. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Well, another thing that happened this week, just actually in the past 2 days, was there was a letter recovered, an internal employee letter that indicates that, of course, Tesla is laying off some people, cutting some staff because, of course, the health crisis and their inability, of course, to be selling cars at this point or making cars. But was more interesting in the letter was that they alluded to May the 4th being a potential startup date, of course, for Fremont and Giga Buffalo. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where this health crisis is going. We're watching, everyone's watching, hoping that we flatten the curve and that cases start to drop. There has been some, I guess, hope looking at the European models that although there's still a lot of sickness and death, it looks like in some cases it is starting to flatten out, and they're hoping that flattening will come across to North America based on the timing that it started to hit here. So we're all certainly hopeful But Tesla is I guess gearing the troops, letting them know that yeah, some of you are going to be laid off, but we are looking at restarting May the 4th, and maybe of course that's a softening of the letter that they're sending out. We really don't know if that's going to be the date that they will start again, because of course they've been locked down by the state of California. California has said the counties, the 6 counties around the Bay Area, they're the ones that have put out the shelter-at-home order, and until that's lifted, Tesla's going to have a really hard time starting up again until that is lifted, or the rules change a little bit as to who is an essential business and who is not. So I guess that could happen too. But it is something that they floated out in this letter, and in some cases there's hope that maybe they believe that we will start getting through this health crisis by the 4th or before that point, and we can all start to get a little bit of normality back into our lives.
Yeah, it was interesting that this came from council rather than from just a regular HR person or from Elon or anybody else on the board. And but really, it's most important that we watch how we bring everything back online to make sure that we keep minimizing this, at least until we get a vaccine and that works and is widely distributed. What we're seeing is some other countries, they're opening too quickly and having to turn back around and lock back down again. So hopefully we can learn from their mistakes.
We may as well get the pain. Since we're already in the pain, we may as well live with the pain a little bit longer, instead of going one step forward and then having to step 2 steps back later on. Certainly, we all are looking for that normalcy of life again, and we all want it to happen sooner rather than later. But there's no point in rushing ahead of this and getting run over by it again.
Yeah. So I just saw something earlier today that said that they're predicting the peak in about 2 weeks, and that from there on it'll get better. Well, if we haven't crossed the peak yet, I don't think that by Star Wars Day we're going to be ready to go.
Right.
May the 4th.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
I was
and all of
us.
us. Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Hopefully they get a plan and can do something about it. You guys up there to the north are doing a little bit better than we are.
Well, we got involved with the lockdown as soon as California did it. We initially jumped all over that, and of course our population 10 times less certainly helps out as well.
It does.
Yeah. Well, that is the show for the week, and I hope everyone out there is being safe, and I hope you're taking care of your family and friends as well. We certainly have to draw together to help everyone through this. It's not easy for everyone at all, and certainly the more help you can give, the better it is for all of us. But Casey, have you got any shout-outs for the end of our show here tonight?
I sure do. I finally finished that video I promised you guys. So head over to youtube.com/CaseyGreen. That's KACEYGREEN. And I know it's a long video. It's 42 minutes long. Don't have to watch it all. If you do, that's great. I'd really appreciate it. But what I've done is down in the description, I've got a table of contents. So if you want to know what happened in 2020.8.1 and what made me so upset about the bugs, you can watch that. If you want to just see what's new in 2020.12.1 that you're going to get, click on that. And then they've started the slow rollout of 2020, I think 15. But I'll let you know more about that as I get it, and obviously make a much shorter video on it. Assuming they don't pile them on me before I can get the video out the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Patrick, any shout-outs here at the end?
Sure, I will give my shout out for my blog. It is carswithcords.net, where I occasionally blog.
Excellent. All right, and if you are watching this and haven't already, please give us a thumbs up at this point. If you hadn't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Now's your chance. Subscribe. It's free. It helps us out. It gets us in front of new eyes and gets us promoted as our numbers go up. So we would really appreciate the thumbs up and the subscription if you haven't done it already. You can also follow us through the week at our Twitter feed at The Tesla Life. and on our Facebook feed, which Mr. Connor narrates for us, the Tesla Life #1. We would also like to thank Mr. Lee Moon for providing our theme music, which we're queuing up now. And we bid you all a good night and great week, and we will see you next week and find out what's going on in the Tesla life. Good night, everybody.
Good night.